How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of Beared Down Uncut, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. ESPN's Adam Schefter reported on Sunday that NFL executives and front brasses around the league believe that Mitchell Trubisky deserves to have an extension, but will that extension come in Chicago, or will he leave this offseason? Today, in episode number 112 of Uncut, we're going to be talking about Mitchell Trubisky's future in Chicago and whether or not, based on his recent strong performances, if he's earned himself an extension with the Bears. Welcome back to the channel, guys. 2020 has been incredible for us, but if you are new to the channel and want Bears content every day of the week, do us a favor, like this video if you're returning, and subscribe. I am your host, Chris Malpe. I am joined to the right of me by both of my co-hosts, Parth and Jaylen McClinton. Fellas, happy Tuesday, getting closer to that Sunday game that is also important. How is it going?
Yeah, that game is super important. It's been on my mind ever since we, ended the Jaguars game. But, just been looking at the Rams-Cardinals injury report almost every hour, basically, and hoping Kyler Murray's also out. But, yeah, just hope that the Bears can upset the Green Bay Packers next week.
Yeah, same here. I've been checking on Twitter, seeing if Jared Goff is going to play. Sadly, he's not. So, hopefully not hopefully. But,
John Wolford season, baby.
John Wolford season.
Maybe Kyler Murray can just take this game off so we can have a chance. But, we're not relying on them to lose. We're relying on our team to win, so we don't even have to worry about that team losing. So, other than that, I've just been enjoying this week. This is going to be a crazy weekend, for us and for the Bears in general. So, that's about it.
Make the playoffs or don't make the playoffs, it's going to end up being a crazy weekend of football. A lot of important games, obviously, and I'm sure later this week we'll make a video about the entire NFC playoff picture with the 2 wildcard spots left, with 3 teams vying for it. But, Jaylen, you mentioned it. We shouldn't be relying on that game. The Bears own their fate, and guess who is at the forefront of that fate? Mitchell Trubisky, the player we're here to talk about today. Adam Schefter, obviously, earlier this week, as I mentioned, opening up this video, reported that the Bears' front brass may consider bringing back Trubisky if he can lead this team to the playoffs. So, first and foremost, I want to start out with this question. I mean, Trubisky has obviously played probably 3 or 4 good games ever since coming back after Nick Foles was benched, after the loss against the Vikings and when he got hurt with that hip pointer. And Mitch has played very well since he's played back. Came back. A lot of NFL executives have believed that this is the best football he's played in his career. So, Parth, I want to talk with you first. I mean, obviously, he's played well thus far. If we don't make the playoffs, I don't think he should get re-signed. But what more do you think Mitch has to do to make sure he has a legitimate shot to get an extension in Chicago?
I think he just has to play good football next weekend. I think next weekend against Green Bay is the biggest game of his career. It can't get any bigger. Extension. He currently is a free agent. He will be a free agent. Yeah. Basically, could be his last game in the Bears uniform. That's something that could be very well be a thing. And he's been playing well so far this year, but again, he has shown inconsistencies. It's going to be interesting to see where the Bears go with this decision. I personally think if he wants a contract extension, he needs to lead the Bears to the playoffs again. I mean, he could literally put up 40 next week, and then Aaron Rodgers could put up 44, and we'd lose the game. And then Bears fans would be like, I think he deserves a shot. So again, if he plays well next week, I think he deserves a shot to come back. I think he's played well the last 4 games. We know he could have gotten a lot better. I thought he should have never been benched, but again, that's going to be up for debate. Here, I think Chris wanted him benched. I know that for a fact, but I don't think he should have been benched.
But I'll agree with you. I don't think he should have been benched. I'll agree with you. I know, yeah.
At the time, I would have agreed with that too. But now I think he definitely deserves another shot if he plays well this week.
Yeah. I think he's got to do a little bit more, personally, to my standards. I mean, if we did extend Mitch, I don't know if it'd be a 1 or 2 year deal. We'll get into it later, but I actually don't think he gets re-signed just because I think other teams are going to be vying for his services a little bit more, paying him some extra money, and I don't know if he'd take a hometown discount if he's getting offered a ton of money to go play elsewhere and compete for a starting job. But I think for the Bears to offer Mitch an extension, which seems like it may or may not happen, whether or not it does happen, because we do not know what his market will look like in February or March. But I think he's got to get us into the playoffs, and maybe we could get lucky with a Rams loss and get in, and I think he's got to win us one playoff game. The Bears haven't won a playoff game in a while. He almost did it in 2018. I think he's got to do it here if he wants an extension. So, Jaylen, I'm going to come back around to you now. The whole world, everyone listening, knows what you're going to say, but what do you think? I mean, we'll get on to whether or not Mitch deserves it a little bit later on in this episode, but what do you think Mitch needs to do that he hasn't done already to prove to the Bears that he deserves an extension?
I'm gonna kind of agree with Parth said. I feel like if he has a good game, if he has a good game on Sunday and puts up 40 points, but Aaron Rodgers puts up 41, 42, and we lose, that's not on Mitch. Mitch, did everything in his power to win that game, and that was on probably if that was to happen, it would be on the defense for letting Aaron Rodgers do that. So if he has a strong game on Sunday, then I say re-sign him even if we lose. But I know it's better if we get into the playoffs and if he win a game or two, then we definitely re-sign him. I could see teams. Obviously other teams are, giving him more money because of the run he's been on right now. But I feel like just Mitch in general, he knows that, he's doing. I don't know if he wants to be a Bear or not.
It very much so might come down to business versus loyalty.
Yeah. Exactly. So we haven't been loyal to Mitch at all. The fan base.
I wouldn't blame him for leaving.
I would not either.
I want him back, but
fans have hated on Mitch since we drafted him. The day we traded up for him, people were like, why are we taking the quarterback? So Chicago Bears fans have not been loyal to Mitch. We've asked him to be benched since his third year. People probably asked him to be benched in his second year when he was leading us to a playoff appearance. So I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves just because of how we treated him in Chicago. Chicago is a very hard place to play, especially when you're a quarterback. For the team, we drafted you number 2 overall. And, Super Bowl MVP was drafted right after you, as well as another Pro Bowl type of quarterback in Deshaun Watson. So I wouldn't be surprised if he left, but I definitely feel like if he has a very strong performance on Sunday, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, he definitely deserves to get a contract extension, 1 or 2 year deal. At the beginning of the season, I thought like we were going to franchise tag him if he had a good season. That's completely out the door right now because he doesn't deserve to be making top 5 quarterback money. But we definitely should be looking at a 1 year or 2 year extension on short term money.
Yeah, and if Mitch is done in Chicago, the tail of the tail will probably come down to Ryan Pace not giving him an offensive line and overcommitting to the defense because I think Pace has done a good job putting good weapons around him.
Yeah.
Also, the comparisons, man, I think they got to him. I think you could tell throughout his time in Chicago that Mitch, at some points, I don't think he is now, but over the last 2 years was pretty in his head and probably at the beginning of this year as well. People forget how mental sports are. But if you could come out strong this weekend, get us to the playoffs, and maybe even win a game, I guess we'll see what happens. But Parth, I'm interested to hear your answer on this next question because the question is whether or not you think personally Mitch deserves an extension. I mean, you've went up and down on him as much as I have. I know we'll both admit that he's been playing strong recently, but he's been here for 4 years. You would think in the draft with where the Bears are going to be in the late teens, they're going to be able to either trade up not too far or stay where they are and possibly pick their next guy with Mac Jones or possibly Kyle Trask. So what do you think the Bears should do moving forward? Do you think they should offer Trubisky another deal? What do you think? Do you think Mitch deserves an extension? What's your gut feeling?
I'm gonna join the Mitch deserves an extension. I think it's the best shot for the Bears to actually improve as a team. This team has holes on the defensive side of the ball, on the offensive line, and if we lose Allen Robinson, we need a wide receiver. So there's definitely things we need to add. And I think quarterback is definitely not the top 3 priority out of those 3 options in my opinion. I think Mitch Trubisky has played well enough to deserve an extension so far. And the quarterbacks in the draft, again, there's a lot of quarterbacks. I think there's 5 quarterbacks that can be selected in the first round. There's guys like Trey Lance, Lawrence, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and Kyle Trask. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, probably not, and Zach Wilson, probably not in the reach for the Bears, so there's 6 quarterbacks. Then again, it comes down to Trey Lance, Mac Jones, and Kyle Trask. Now, if Ryan Pace gets another shot at drafting his quarterback, does he like those 3 guys? Again, you don't want to settle for a quarterback. That's the worst thing you could do. You take the guy you want. So if the Bears do want someone in the top 3, we'd have to trade up. Again, that takes away draft assets. And I think the Bears are pretty close to being a pretty good team. And if I'd rather use those assets to draft players in the later rounds that could help improve this team instead of trying to just get a quarterback who might not even pan out. I think Mitch Trubisky definitely is playing better than a bunch of rookies would do in this spot next year. So I'm all aboard that signing Mitch Trubisky to a 1-year deal.
Yeah, that is a pretty interesting take. We have seen some rookies play really well this year. I mean,
Yeah, 100%.
We saw Justin Herbert blow out Trubisky's numbers in 12 starts, and Burrow was set to absolutely crush it and win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I'll say this for Mitch. I think right now it makes sense to re-sign him. Do I think it happens? Still, no. And do I want it to happen? Probably not, because I would like to see a little more. I don't like getting content. I want a playoff win. But if the Bears did bring him back, that would allow him to take in the first 3 rounds. Say you go tackle, wide receiver, tackle. You could get rid of Massey and Leno, have 2 new starting tackles, focus some money in free agency after you make some cuts on possibly signing some other offensive linemen, maybe wide receivers, because I think the future for Anthony Miller in Chicago is getting pretty murky. He hasn't really lived up to where he was drafted, and we'll probably make videos on him later this offseason, but I think the Bears have to start gearing up for drafting another slot wide receiver here soon, especially if Robinson leaves. They're going to need a new wide receiver 1, which is definitely going to have to come out of the first 2 rounds. But you know what? I think at this time it makes sense to re-sign Mitch based on what you can do in the draft, what you can allocate money towards in free agency. Do I think he deserves it? No. And I definitely don't. I know all 3 of us don't want them to overpay, because that's a very big gamble that Ryan Pace or whoever would be signing him to an extension is taking. And you don't want, with the amount of money you're already giving to the defense, you don't want to put too much money into one player on offense, especially if a goal is to still bring back Allen Robinson, which I'm sure the Bears are definitely still considering. So I think it makes sense. I don't think it happens, but I just don't want them overpaying him, and I don't think I've seen enough. So I'm going to go ahead and say no there. But Jaylen, we know your answer here. I don't even need to go to you, but I'm going to go to you anyway. So do you think Trubisky deserves an extension here?
Yes. Like you said, I don't want to overpay him. Even though I'm all aboard the Mitch being the starting quarterback next season, I still want to draft a quarterback.
I don't know if I'd want to pay him more than like $12 million.
$12 million. If it's a year, I wouldn't have a problem with that. 2 years, 3 years, no, I'm not giving Mitch $12 million a year. But if it's $10 million for 2 years, I'll definitely do that. But I'm still all aboard the taking the quarterback in the first round. Especially if we can get like Parth said, if one of our guys fall to us, take him. I still feel like the quarterback position was not the main need of this team. It's been offensive line these last 2 years. That's why Mitch had a down season last year when he got hurt at the beginning of the season. He hurt his shoulder on his throwing arm, and the offensive line was putrid. It still was putrid this year when Nick Foles came in, and that showed. The first couple weeks it looked solid just because Mitchell wasn't really getting touched like that because he's a mobile quarterback. So even when the pocket did break down, he would just run out and extend the play using his legs. But as soon as Nick Foles got in, we saw that this offensive line still needed some help. So I definitely feel like we should still address the offensive line. That's our main need. We'll protect our quarterback, whoever that is. We still need to, re-sign Allen Robinson. So, our main focus is Allen Robinson and the offensive lineman in the offseason. It's not the quarterback position. Of course, we can get better at the quarterback position. By far we can. But, like Parth said, this team is not very far away from being a very good team. We showed that we were a solid team with no offense at the beginning of the season, and now that our offense is picking up, and we still have a defense that can create turnovers and flip the switch like that, it shows that we're not far away. We just need to retool the offense a little bit, get some assets on defense as well, rather that's on the defensive line, and like a safety or something like that. But, I'm definitely down for re-signing Mitchell.
Yeah, and this just becomes so much more of an issue because of Nick Foles' contract.
Yeah.
Because he could just sit here and collect checks. But and it would be so much easier just to draft a quarterback in the first round and keep Mitch. But it is what it is. But, Jaylen, you said 2 years, $10 million. I think we'd all be fine with that. But once again, it's going to come to loyalty versus business. There's going to be a lot of teams that need quarterbacks this offseason. I mean, take a look. The 49ers, we don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo and them, and we've all expressed that we think Mitch would be better in San Francisco. Dallas, depending on what happens with Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott, because they're both on the last year of their contract. The Washington football team, they just released Dwayne Haskins. We don't know if they're going to take someone in the draft. I'm pretty confident they will, but Philadelphia, too, if they move on from Carson Wentz, they'll need a backup. The Jets will need a backup after they draft Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. The Jaguars could use someone. There's a lot of teams in this league. And also, too, I didn't even mention, the Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers both have quarterbacks whose play has been, I would say, declining a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to need to look for guys soon. So there's going to be a lot of options for Mitch out there. Also, possibly even Detroit. It should be interesting to see. But leading into my next question now, and the final one before we close this one off, Parth, I'll start with you. Say Mitch leaves this offseason. Say the Bears do not get it done. Say he goes somewhere else. What do you want the Bears to do to replace him? Who is your ideal guy? This can include free agents as well as people in the draft. Cam Newton, Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott, Dwayne Haskins, screw it. You could trade for Sam Darnold or Drew Lock, or you could go in the draft for someone like a Kyle Trask or a Mac Jones. So if Mitch doesn't return to Chicago, what do you think the path is moving forward to make sure the Bears are still competitive in 2021?
I'd love to probably get someone in the draft. I would probably draft Kyle Trask or Trey Lance. It'd probably be between those two. I'm not super high on Mac Jones just because of that Alabama system. Just to have a guy like Najee Harris and Devontae Smith on your team, it's definitely got to help. So I'm definitely gonna.
Same with having Kyle Pitts.
True, Pitts is an absolute monster, but so is Jimmy Graham. It'll
be only come out next year, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. I do like Trask and Lance. I think those two are definitely the two best options for the Bears where they're sitting at currently.
Yeah, I like Trask a lot too. That'd probably be my ideal option, but one that not a lot of people are talking about, and this would be taking a risk for sure, a Trubisky-like risk because he's a very similar player who's been so up and down, but not enough people are talking about it. And this player definitely hasn't gotten the respect he deserves and hasn't played enough games to be able to make a stable opinion on him in the NFL is Drew Lock. I think that's an interesting situation because I think he would be tradable. I think Denver does want to move on. Vic Fangio will still be the head coach there, and a lot of people within Denver's organization are saying that he's probably going to go next year if the Broncos decide to take a quarterback. Drew Lock hasn't played 16 games in the NFL. He has more NFL experience than any of these rookie quarterbacks. He's had his highs. He's had his lows. I just think it could be interesting to get him in a situation here. I think we could probably get him for a third or fourth round pick, and that's something worth looking into because, if Mitch is gone, you'd have him and Foles. I assume Lock would start, and then you could still put money into the offensive line, still put draft picks into wide receivers and such. And I think that's an interesting situation as well. I don't think Drew Lock gets the respect he deserves. And that might be a little bit of a bold take, but I'd probably take him over Sam Darnold, even though Darnold might be the better option because he's just been in an absolute crapshoot in New York. But, Jaylen, I'm going to pass it around to you. I know this is tough to talk about for you. This is probably the time normally where if we told you we were recording about this, you would say, I don't want to be in the podcast. But there are a lot of options for the Bears if Mitch does leave. So what do you want the Bears to do quarterback-wise if Trubisky does not return in 2021?
Well, first of all, it's not going to be Cam Newton or freaking Dwayne Haskins. No, I'm straight on those.
Yeah, no, I just said those because they're guys that are.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't need. If Pace even considers that, fire him on the spot. Because those are terrible options. But I would go in the draft. I'm happy and mad at the same time that if we would have kept losing, I would have been upset, of course, but we would have been possibly in a position to get Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is a very good quarterback.
Zach Wilson might go number 2 overall for all we know.
And I know,
he hasn't played enough this year. It has been inconsistent against good teams, and we'll obviously get into draft content in the offseason, but I think there's a decent chance that the Jets end up taking Zach Wilson, so it should be interesting.
And so, of course, I'm happy that we're in a position to make the playoffs, but man, if we were a bad team getting a quarterback like Zach Wilson, I would not be upset about that. But obviously, we're like I said, we're probably going to be in the late teens, early 20s if we do make the playoffs. So if we can get like a Kyle Trask, I wouldn't be upset about that. But if not, draft offensive lineman in the first round, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think Trask or Mac Jones, both of them aren't bad picks. And then I also think a sleeper pick at quarterback who would still be damn good in this league is Jamie Newman out of Georgia, transferred from Wake Forest, and he didn't play much this year. I don't even know if he played at all. Actually, he might have just transferred and ridden the bench.
No, he did. He played. He started.
Oh wow! For some reason, I thought he wasn't playing, but he's a sleeper pick as well, who might go late second, early third round, possibly even drift into a day 3 pick. So that's another interesting one if the Bears want to take a shot on a guy later. But thank you guys so much for tuning into episode number 112 of Uncut. That's pretty much it for us. If you want more content from us, though, head over to our website, beareddown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs to get you guys ready with a ton of draft content. We're probably going to start our offseason content soon, talking about possible landing destinations for Mitch if he doesn't resign and stuff like that. So head over to our website, beareddown.com. We're also posting our Week 17 Bears vs. Packers coverage right now. So be sure to go check it out. A lot of good reads on there if you have any extra time. If you would like to find us on social media, we're at Beared Down on Instagram and Twitter. It's a great way to interact with us. We post sneak peeks of podcasts and also talk about stuff we're planning to do in the future. You can see a lot of the stuff we're planning to release in 2021 if you go check us out on social media right now. And finally, you can find the links to all of our social media pages down in the description. All of our Instagrams, all of our Twitters. It's a great way to interact with us, see our opinion on all professional sports, all Chicago sports, and it's a great follow. So be sure to check us out on all social media. Parth, Jaylen McClinton, Mitchell Trubisky's future in Chicago is very up in the air, and this Week 17 game and possibly games following could really end up determining it. So any last words before we close this one off?
Yeah, it definitely determines his future. This Sunday very well could be his last game as a Bear. That's something we
Thanks,
could be
Jared
watching.
Goff.
Yeah, basically, But let's hope the Rams could somehow win, and the Bears, I would love to see them beat the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be tough, but yeah.
That would be a nice way. If Mitch doesn't return next year and we still beat the Packers, that would be probably the
nice
most
send-off.
epic way for him to go out.
Oh, that would be an amazing send-off.
But then again, I would if we beat the Packers, we're in the playoffs. So if we win that, I'd want him to win one more game against what I assume would be
The Saints.
If we beat the Packers, it would be Green Bay.
No, because it could be Seattle.
Well, if Seattle loses, and it's really
I don't know.
weird.
The whole situation is confusing. But any last words?
Any last words from me?
Yes, any last words from you?
Just win on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep, and the Bears will be looking for a big performance from Trubisky. Should be interesting to see how it plays out. Very big week, probably the biggest week of all time here at Beared Down, as well as the biggest week of the careers of Matt Nagy, Mitchell Trubisky, and Ryan Pace, that tandem as a whole. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you made it this far and haven't done so already, subscribe if you want Bears content every day of the week, and like this video. It's been a pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Malpe. Bears fans, do us a favor, down in the comments, let us know whether or not you think Trubisky should return in 2021, and if not, what do you want the Bears to do at the quarterback position? That's pretty much for us, guys, though. As always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.